Good afternoon. We'll start the session. Yesterday, we stopped over here by discussing the six-stage architecture, and we have seen different management techniques with that particular architecture. So, the diagram we visited, so starting from physical layer 802.15.4, that is with respect to basic level or physical layer, we have on top of that, we have adoption layer, then the wireless private area network, and then it is connected to IPv6. So then we discussed about static scheduling. We discussed different examples for the same, the constant watching of sensor data by fixing the time intervals or periodic checkup with the sensor data for every 1 hour, 2 hour, and so on. So remaining in between, it will go to sleep mode or hibernate, or it may go for shutdown. Then neighbor to neighbor scheduling. So we can set up one endpoint point to point scheduling based on our need, based on the application. Then we may incorporate remote monitoring and scheduling management. Remote monitoring, you can by automatically through the programs or different standalone applications, you can monitor sensor data and the actual setup what that we wanted to monitor within that particular environment, that can be seen through remote monitoring. And we can schedule the management itself. So management with respect to scheduling management with respect to, say for example, if you want to alter the set of values of actuators. For example, we discussed the example of room temperature maintenance through the speed raising or reducing the speed of fan. So that is scheduling. And then hop by hop, machine to machine discussion. You can track forwarding. Part of code can be forwarded, part of sensor data might be forwarded, and then fragment, and then for IPv6. For these things we have seen yesterday. So to deal with these many mechanisms, we need something called RPL. So this is one of the protocol that we use with respect to physical layer. So RPL is nothing but a routing protocol with the low power and lossy networks. So that's why the term RPL came to picture. So this is whatever this is with respect or familiar with whatever the routing protocol we discussed in our previous semesters in networks. In parallel with that, this RPL is we can study along with that. So only difference with that is it is low power and lossy network. It will consume very less power, and it is not sure of delivering the particular data on the other end. So with respect to RPL, which will work with the two modes. One is storing mode and non-storing mode. So with respect to storing mode, so all the nodes, so with respect to node in the sense nearby the sensor, whatever the smart object we connect, so that individual smart object will have full routing table. So that from one particular node to another node. So the distance along with the time, so that will be managed with the routing table, and every node will be knowing how to directly reach every other node. That is what we studied with respect to routing table. And then non-storing mode, so only up to the borders. So nothing but from one point to another point. If there is any midpoint, say bridges or routers, then the routing table will have only up to that particular bridge or router, the map from endpoint till the bridge. Same thing in the reverse order itself will be maintained. So that is one is storing mode and non-storing mode. RPL is a routing protocol for low power and lossy networks. So this is uh, why we call it as lossy network is, for example, if there is any miscalculation or if there is any high power is generated in the network, at that time there is a there will be loss in the data. That's why more frequently we might end up with the losing of data or loss of packets. However, this is based on IEEE 802.15.4. We deal with physical layer, the sensors. So here you can see a small diagram, DAG and do DAG comparison. So DAG is direct acyclic graph. So for each individual nodes, you will have a graph with the routing. So from here, say for example, if you observe my cursor, from this particular point onwards, we have a direct connection to this particular node, this and this node. So with respect to routing table, this particular node's routing table should have the distance from this particular node. This has a source, and over here, this is a destination or in between node. Similarly, the distance from this particular node to here, each individual node will maintain its routing table in that. And coming to do DAG, what is this? So, anybody? Ranjit, if you are familiar with this particular term. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Please answer.
ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ sir.
Ranjit.
ರಂಜಿತ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ.
Okay.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅವರು ರಂಜಿತ್ ಹೋದ.
Okay. We'll come back later. So we have an example to deal with this particular thing. We'll see that particular with an example. So here you can see an RPL overview. So here you can see the rank on the left hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the based on different levels or layers that we have different sensors. And then you can have a router over here, IP WAN, you can see that routing. So from this particular router, so we can have different endpoints over here. So see this one, do DAG route's job is to maintain entire routing table of this entire setup. So for example, for a particular smart object, if a smart object has this many number of sensors, then we must need a router, DAG router. So its job is to maintain all the routing table mechanism. So with respect to comparison between this and this, DAG and do DAG is, so with respect to DAG, each individual node will maintain the routing table. With respect to do DAG, the router itself will maintain the routing table, both upward and downward link. Both the things it will maintain with the routing values. And then to maintain with the RPL, we have some metrics or measures. So one is, by default, RPL will define the large and flexible set of new metrics. So these new metrics are nothing but with respect to based on the sensor, based on the data, based on the application, whatever the data we wanted to access. So based on that, we may set up something like rules and regulations. So to deal with that metrics, we have some terminologies. One is ETX, expected transmission count. So this is nothing but it is a value, the particular value is nothing but transmissions a node expects to make a deliver of a packet. So how many number of packets are delivered from source to destination? So that is expected transmission count. Say for every morning, we can say by taking an example of for example, temperature sensors, so that we set up in a classroom. So we are expecting that at the end of the day, we may get around 10 to 20 packets of data. So that is estimated or expected transmission count from the sensor to our processing unit, to the processor. So if you are considering for every 1 hour, if you are for every 30 minutes, if you are capturing the data, temperature data, then total number of expected transmission from that particular node to the delivery in the sense either to processor or to the database. Then we have something called hop count. Hop count is nothing but, as usual, we know the total number of endpoints or nodes that we have in the network, or on the other hand, it will track the number of nodes. This number of nodes is nothing but, say for example, if a particular an endpoint wanted to transmit a data from its a sensor to another sensor, another device. So total number of hops or nodes it may encounter in that lane, that is hop count. And latency, nothing but delay based on different uh, different measures, either temperature or power or delay in communication setup or delay in routing, anything. So latency, again, one of the measure or metric that we supposed to take into consideration when we have RPL, routing protocol with low power consumption. Then we have link quality level. So with respect to link quality level, it is a reliability link that we measure. So that reliability we is taking into consideration. Reliable is nothing but we supposed to reduce the error rate. So without troubling, without signal attenuation, without anybody's interference in between. So the only thing is whatever we send from the source that must reach without a delay, that must reach to the destination, that is link quality level. So how it is measured? Again, based on the factors of signal attenuation, maybe because of temperature issues, maybe because of delay in traffic, maybe because of some nodes interference in between, all those. And link color, this is not actual coloring, but the link color, the terminology we use, for example, for a particular transmission lane, say from source to destination, there may be n number of routing protocols, routing algorithms we may adopt. But based on that, with respect to delivering the data from source to destination, if you are considering that particular point, which of the routing algorithms which will effectively deliver by administrating the values. What is this administrating is nothing but, say for example, from source to destination, there may be n number of uh, intermediate nodes. So if a source wanted to transmit data from source itself to destination, then in between there may be n number of intermediate nodes. So after reaching individual intermediate nodes, the routing protocol should be updated because that many path, that many number of nodes or hops already traveled. So that's what we measure link color. And then a node state and attribute. This node state is nothing but whether the node is active or passive, nothing but whether the particular node is continuously on, power on, active throughout the network. And then passive is nothing but whenever the node is required, at that time only it will get up or it will make it as active. Attribute is concerned with respect to the CPU processing speed and memory states and workload with that particular thing, all those. Total number of processes are executing in the back end. Those things comes under attributes. And coming to the node energy, however, when sensor is concerned with, however, it is a very less power consumer, but still by considering whether it is a battery powered node or whether it is AC or if it is a DC, then voltage level, or if it is something in between, if it is run out of battery charge, something like that. So those are the factors you're supposed to consider with this node energy. So nothing but for example, we can say that we need continuous constant power supply for every node. That is what the end result, what we are expecting. So with this particular node energy metric, what we trying to say is we supposed to avoid the low power, less battery charge if you are making use of rechargeable battery or if it is AC, then the voltage level should be monitored. It should be constant. Then something like throughput, the speed at which you can transmit from source to destination. So if it is less throughput, you'll have very less transmission, or on the other hand, we say there is high delay in the transmission line. So these are the metrics we will consider when we are discussing with the RPL. So coming back to RPL again, RPL is nothing but low power routing protocol, and sometimes or most of the times it is lossy network because of the power maintenance. We have storing mode and non-storing mode. Storing mode in the sense all the nodes, whatever the nodes we use in the network, all the nodes will have a storage for routing table. Non-storing model, non-storing mode, it won't have individual storage. Only the border router will have the routing table mechanism. So with respect to DAG and DAG, both the things we may use with respect to our smart objects. With respect to DAG is well suited with the storing mode because each individual nodes will store all the routing table information. With respect to DAG, only one particular centralized routing table is maintained with RPL. And then we have seen the metrics. And two types of mechanism that we may measure or we may go through with this RPL, ACE and DICE. ACE is nothing but authentication or authorization for constrained environments. Authentication and authorization, both the things. With respect to DICE, we are dealing with the, if we are dealing with the UDP, then we may go with DICE. So with respect to ACE, authentication authorization, for each individual node, we supposed to assign a particular working group. So under which group it should work. For example, say we have set up a smart object in our classroom. So each the smart object will have temperature sensor, humidity sensor, camera module, Wi-Fi module, and GPS module, all those things, so that I can monitor entire classroom. So now with respect to AS is concerned with, I'll create a separate working group so that each individual node falls under that particular category, so that I can easily maintain the data, so that I'll have authentication and authorization over the data restricted environment. So why we need AS is for the documentation purpose. So because when we are implementing any research oriented project or individual project, at the end we supposed to uh, justify our result. To justify our result, we should follow some guidelines, say standard guidelines. So if you are following this one, yes, setup, that is authentication and authorization, then we can easily justify our result. For example, even with respect to your own project as a final year project, so you should go with the authentication and authorization with respect to each level. For example, if it is a database oriented project, say you're supposed to send an OTP to your mobile, right? Whether to check with whether the particular number or number of digits must be a mobile number only, you can send a OTP using an API. So that is how authorization works. And along with that, we have something called DICE. This DICE is something like related with the optimization of IP protocol stack and using ODP at a transport level. So we can make use of COAP, constrained application protocol. So we'll see in detail about this COAP. So for that one, we have some compliances. These international compliances, Internet Protocol for Smart Object Alliance, WISE Alliance, Thread IPv6 ready logo. So these are the standards or international compliances that we may adopt in our smart objects. And coming to different application protocols that we set up in IoT, with respect to transport layer, we have TCP, we have UDP, application layer protocol is not present at easily, but we may have SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition, one of the important topic, SCADA. You may get a question for sure. And generic web-based protocols and IoT application layer protocols. So over here, these are all the application protocols only for IoT. We can't see all these protocols in any other normal network. We'll see one by one. We have listed out something like application layer protocol not present without having specific application layer. So we are very much familiar with TCP and UDP. TCP is connection oriented protocol. So before transmitting the data, we must have a end-to-end connection in hand. Then only we can send the data. That is TCP. If it is UDP, based on the arrival of the packet, the particular node will decide which route is okay with that. So it will send to the next layer. The next node will decide to which node it has to send to reach the destination. That is UDP, connectionless protocol. There is no dedicated connection at front or before sending the packet, before sending the data. We'll see other 4 application layer protocol which is not present now. Consider this setup. Start from the bottom. So we have different sensors, sensor X, sensor Y, sensor Z, and each sensors will have decoder, because in between adoption, we have discussed adoption layer in last class. Adoption layer, or on the other hand, in general, if you speak something like fog computing or intermediate layer, so its job is to convert the actual sensor data into understandable format. So that is conversion from one format to another format. We have seen in IoT architectures also. So for that reason, we need decoders, different decoders. And from the decoder, we need something called the data broker. So this data broker's job is accepting data from higher level, and sending the data to lower level, just receiving and transmitting. There won't be any storage. Based on the format, it will receive from the decoder. So we need something like API only. For example, application A wanted to see the temperature from a particular classroom. So the application A will send a request to the API. API will send that request to the decoder. Decoder will send that request to sensor X. On reverse, sensor X will read the data. So with respect to how it is reads, say based on the sensor that we use, either it's a 2-byte coding, 4-byte coding, or 8-byte coding, anyway. So based on that, it will receive sensor X. Decoder will receive that particular data. Decoder's job is to convert into understandable format, which is understandable by the API, irrespective of the bytes. So that's why the diagram shows in the left hand side 2-byte, between 4 bytes, and at the end 8 bytes. So depends on the sensor, the data size may vary. So that's why we are representing in that particular diagram. So APIs, IoT data broker API's job is to directly transmitting that particular data into the application. So over here, we don't have separate application layer protocol. There is nothing like set up particular protocol. Whatever the data we receive, we'll send it. Right. With respect to other application layer, say we know something like SMTP, FTP, all those. We have specific structure. Simple mail transfer protocol, SMTP. We know, right, the format of mail, how to set up from A to, say, for example, sender to receiver, right? How it is connection is established. Here, nothing is like that. There is no specific application protocol. That's why the terminology application layer protocol not present. Coming to the SCADA part, the important thing. Any clarification or any doubt so far? Any doubt? So we'll go through with SCADA and then we'll stop. With respect to SCADA, so we can directly relate with our OSI 7-layer architecture. However, this SCADA is also has 7-layer setup. So if we start from the bottom, it is data link and physical together. Then we have network. Then we have transport. Then we have something new, that is connection management. Then DNP3 data link layer, transport function, and application layer. So now, with respect to SCADA, we are clubbing up 3 different types of protocols. Nothing but we have protocol stack one by one on top of each protocols. that is a serial. So we have IP, Internet Protocol, IPv4, IPv6. We are very much familiar. So we may go with the TCP or UDP. No issues. Anything is fine. Then we have something called connection management. That is intermediate protocol. So that is IEEE 1815 section. You can browse in the internet. You'll get plenty of APIs and its white papers. You can see. Then we have link frame protocol. So with respect to link frame protocol, how we can accept the data from the lower level and send to the or transfer to the upper level. Then transport segment, application fragment. We'll see in detail about this SCADA in tomorrow's class. So that is enough for the day. If you have any doubts, you can ask.